Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and I don't suck, and neither does the Piffles podcast. But anyone who plays the Riders, they suck. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Get the feeling now. Get 'em high, get 'em low. 'Cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got. 'Cause we're ready.
Welcome into the Piffles podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. Thanks for joining us this week. As always, you got me. I'm Alex.
I'm Steve.
And call me the Kool-Aid man because I'm ready to run through a wall for Corey Mace.
Are you drinking the Corey Mace Kool-Aid?
May as well be, because that man, as psyched as we were when it was not officially, well, just officially announced, kind of officially announced, his presser, I think that's the first one I watched the entire thing. Like, it was good.
Watching it, I understand exactly why Jeremy O'Day looked like he did for 40 minutes. The amount of smiles and giddiness on his face. I've never seen that man smile so much. It was unbelievable.
People find you someone who looks at you like the way O'Day looked at Corey Mace for 40 minutes. That was something. That was some man love right there.
We're going to talk a little bit more about Corey Mace here coming up on the show. Of course, Piffles podcast. You can give us a follow on X, formerly Twitter, at Piffles Pod. You can give me a follow at RealAlexD.
You can find me at Safamod.
And as always, I do not need nor want your pity follows at Greg on Sports.
Check us out on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Piffles Podcast. Lots of great discussion going on Facebook right now with branding of the team. And we're going to talk a lot about that in the next coming weeks. About how to connect better with fans. So we're going to want everybody's opinion on that. So stick around for the show and we'll tell you our thoughts and get some of yours as well. And of course, go to the website, pifflespodcast.com. Piffles Podcast, of course, is presented by Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Thanks everybody for listening on your favorite podcast platform, watching on YouTube, watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand. We saw the numbers from the last episode. It just keeps growing and growing. And for the life of me, I don't understand it, but thank you very much.
But thank you.
It shows that there's a lot of optimism here in Riderville right now with Corey Mace. And that's exactly where we're going to start off this week. Time for the opening kickoff. So last episode, it wasn't officially announced by the team when we recorded that Corey Mace was going to be the new head coach. Of course, that became official. A 3-year deal for Corey Mace, matches with Jeremy O'Day, which I think is a very good thing. I'm glad it's not less than that. Puts these two together. And judging by the press conference that they had, they seem to have the same vision. They kept on saying that. It was almost repeated too much, but if they're really that in sync, that's nothing but a good thing for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
They had a 4-hour Zoom call or Teams meeting. 4 hours. They could have watched 2 movies in that time. like during the pandemic, I was playing poker with my buddies via Zoom, and those barely lasted 4 hours. They obviously had a lot to talk about because that just is amazing.
Honestly, it's hard not to like the guy after listening to him talk for 40 minutes to an hour there. Just every word. I was hanging on every word. And I don't understand why. It was just a head coach press conference, but I couldn't stop watching. There was just something about the guy. It just brought that hope and that passion. And he seemed to have the right answers to everything. Straight down to him planning to make Regina home. Like, he's going to live here. This is going to be his home for the next 3 years. And that's a big deal in Saskatchewan.
Huge. Our last two coaches didn't live here. Chris Jones and Craig Dickinson. I mean, when Chris Jones was here, he was here. Like, he was all in 19 and a half hours a day, doing football stuff. So, like, I mean, no one's more committed than Chris Jones in that sense. But in terms of community was such a big thing in that press conference. And for anybody that knows Corey Mace, going back to his Calgary Stampeders days, knows he is a big community guy, always in there doing food drives and delivering turkeys and Christmas hampers, all that kind of stuff. Did that in Toronto as well. That's exactly what this team needs, is community. We're going to talk a lot about that later on in the show, but this guy just seems to embody that. And what really impressed me in his press conference, once Jeremy O'Day had his first 5 minutes that he talked, the very first thing that Corey Mace said was, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into this job, but shout out to my wife, because she's the one making the real sacrifice here. And when you see a guy just all of a sudden do that, it just takes that respect to just a whole new level. And I mean, with a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old who are going to move here, that's a sacrifice. And his wife is making a big sacrifice to make Saskatchewan, Regina, their home, and to be a part of this team. And when you see that, I'm like, add on all the football stuff that he talked about. I'm like, this is the guy. This is absolutely the right guy at the right time to lead the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And I am absolutely convinced of that. So,
and we're gonna talk about it a little bit later, but the one thing I liked about him was that community and family aspect. You're right. You watch the video the Riders released today with the look back at his welcome, and he mentioned home multiple times there, and he talked about how his kids are gonna love it here, and his kids are gonna love the jerseys the Riders got him, and like everything seemed to be more about his family and where he was than anything. And that's a huge thing here. Community has been something that has been lost here over the last 10, 15 years. And I feel like he's the kind of guy that they need at the helm to bring all of that together and hopefully enact some of the things we might talk about later on.
But I got to admit, as much as I loved everything that Mace had to say, and as entranced I was by him, the thing that I came out of that, though, is J.O. was throwing bombs at Dickey when he
some backhanded shots, yes.
And I was like, am I reading too much into this, or is that part of? I'm like, no, that's definitely a shot. Like, it was called, what was honesty, wants to be here, wants to be in the community,
leadership.
And I'm like, leadership. I'm like, whoo. But taking it back, you're the one who kept him around. Like, you could have got rid of him last year, and you chose to hitch your wagon to him. Like, he's lucky that Dickey didn't take him down with him.
But what I've actually found is a lot of people are actually still kind of split on this, on Corey Mace. I'm seeing a lot of comments saying things aren't going to change as long as it's Reynolds and O'Day in charge. I'm not going to go that far and say that. Did I think there should have been some more changes in the offseason before, Craig Dickinson was let go? Yeah, probably. Maybe not to the very, very top, but O'Day needs a chance here. And I think the fact that he's got his guy, this is his first hire that he's actually been able to really choose for himself. And it seems like he's knocked it out of the park, at least on my end. And I mean, you guys saw the quote after their interview, J.O. and Corey Mace. Corey Mace said, "I just want you to know, I want this effing job." He wants it. There's other guys that interview for it that'd be like, yeah, I want this job. No, this guy wants the job. He wants to lead a team. And I watched all his interviews after, the one on Sports Cage, the one on Green Zone. I caught them all. And I just truly get the sense that this is the right guy.
I can't wait. Like, the hope springs eternal. And like I said, we've seen our numbers this past week. So if we're doing good, you know that there is a fire burning right now because of this. Now, the team now needs to be able to keep this going. Like, they can't lull out of this. They got to carry this momentum. So I guess we'll see what they can do.
And I'm not going to lie, after 20 years of being a season ticket holder, I was wondering if I was going to renew. I renewed my tickets this past weekend because I'm very excited about this team going forward. And I know there's a lot of longtime season ticket holders that have said they are not renewing, and for various reasons. And it doesn't matter what the reasons are. It's all personal reasons, right? But it's showing that the team does want to succeed. And if they can put it together on the field, you're going to see a lot more people coming back in 2025 and beyond as well.
They extended the Grey Cup ticket sweepstake by a day because they had after Mace was hired, they couldn't keep up to people renewing their season tickets. So that tells you what impact a head coach can bring.
Well, and this aspect of the team being split on, or sorry, fans being split on O'Day and Reynolds. The one thing I took from the press conference was Mace very specifically mentioned that he wanted to come here because he believes this team has a good foundation. And that foundation was built by Jeremy O'Day. Now, we can talk till we're blue in the face about the team culture and the community aspect and, people above Jeremy O'Day. But I remember going into last season with a ton of optimism about the team that they were putting together. It didn't come together. We saw what happened, and a lot of that has come down to head coaching. But Mace saw what he saw. He knows that there's a good foundation here. And I don't understand how fans can hear that from the coach that they want, along with all of this synchronicity between O'Day and Corey Mace, and still question whether O'Day is the right guy to work with him to build this team.
Synchronicity, that word of the day calendar is really paying off.
Trying to go for at least 3-syllable words today.
I don't think you got the Simpsons reference on that one, Greg. Coordinators, coaches, who's going to join them on staff? We found out on Wednesday that it's official. Farhan Lalji again beating everybody to the punch, confirming that it was Marc Mueller coming to Saskatchewan from Calgary as offensive coordinator. Do you guys like that hire?
Yes. Like I said, up until this past offseason, Marc Mueller was always seen as a young coach to watch. He was going to be a great offensive coordinator. He's going to be a great head coach in this league. He left his legit stop being a player to being a quarterback coach for the Rams for one season, and then he was picked up by the Stampeders. Like, the dude has a high football IQ and is seen as a coach to watch. There's that false narrative that he was demoted, but
it's not. I think it's not completely wrong, but it's definitely not right.
I'm super torn on this hire, and a lot of it has to do with the lack of experience. Now, I have faith that Corey Mace knows what he's doing, and I think it was Farhan Lalji who also said Mace isn't going to pick a guy he doesn't know can do the job. This is potentially his one chance at head coaching. Some guys never get a second look, so he's not going to just pick a buddy. This isn't a guy just picking friends to come work with him. This is a guy picking a staff that he feels can win. And we look at what happened in Calgary. We know that he had play calling removed, but I wonder how much of that was Dickinson wanting the control back of the offense that he built. I don't think that was a Marc Mueller offense we were watching. I think that was a Dave Dickinson offense that Marc Mueller got to call the plays for. I'm excited to see what he can do with his own playbook, his own team, and his own ingenuity.
Well, at least he's been around the league for 10 years, has a couple Grey Cup rings. Our offensive coordinator last year definitely did not have that kind of qualification. And I like the hire. Obviously, there's the whole, growing up with Ron Lancaster as your grandfather, right? You get that whole connection, which Chris Cuthbert actually tweeted about. So if he's excited, I'm excited. But going to there is the question mark. Okay, well, yeah, he did have his play calling removed, which was a Dave Dickinson thing, obviously. So there is concern there. I don't think it was entirely his fault in Calgary. They had a lot of injuries at receiver, which to me is no excuse, but the replacements that came on sucked. They could not catch a cold if they tried. And running back injuries all over the map, like Jake Mayer being a garbage quarterback. That's not on Marc Mueller.
With a guaranteed contract.
Yeah, that's not on Marc Mueller at all. So if you give him healthy receivers, which generally speaking the Riders had last year, which hopefully they do have again, have a running game, you're going to see him do well. I really expect that. And he's got a veteran quarterback to work with, a guy who's been around the league, has gotten to big games. And I think that's a good match. If you're a young quarterback, or sorry, a young coach, to have a veteran quarterback with you is a very good thing. If you're a veteran coach, maybe that's the best time to have a young quarterback. So I think there's a good balance there. And I can't wait to see this team take the field, whoever's on this team, because I just think the culture hasn't completely changed, but you can see that big time shift. And I'm excited to see what they bring on the field in 2024.
It legit feels like there's a giant weight off of Riders Nation's back right now. And all it was a small coaching change. Like, we haven't signed any major names right now. We still have a bunch of free agents that should be coming back, hopefully are coming back. But all it took was a little change in leadership, and all of a sudden, hopes are starting to rise again in Rider Nation.
Well, on the day after he was hired, Corey Mace had the season ticket holder meet and greet at the stadium. And when was the last time we saw that happen? So just wanting to go out there and meet fans on day one of the full job, like day two, really, of the job. You don't see that very often.
And the best part about that meet and greet was the response was so strong and so fast, they had to move it into the, what do you call that lounge?
The Harvard Lounge.
The Harvard Lounge. Like they had to get it into a bigger space because they had enough people there that wanted to meet this guy, all because they heard him talk for 40 minutes. That's all it took. And people are just beyond jacked up right now.
I'm actually kind of surprised, this being Rider Nation, there wasn't at least some people screaming from the top of their lungs that he's wasting his time meeting fans when he needs to be putting together a team. Because we can never be happy. We can never have nice things. That is where we are right now.
It's funny you mentioned that. He, right after the press conference, he tweeted out something like, "I can't wait to meet y'all, but it's time to get to work." And apparently the first part of his job was to go out and meet you all. But,
Yeah, get working on that long free agent list, Corey. Like, have those meetings with Jo and let's get going. Defensive coordinator. It's going to be Corey Mace. He hinted at that in one of his interviews.
I think it was actually confirmed today in the announcement of Marc Mueller today.
Oh, was it? I didn't read the whole thing. But he said that he'll have some help in that end. So there's been rumors that possibly defensive backs coach in Toronto, Josh Bell, might be the guy that comes over here. Give him DB coach / assistant coach, whatever role you want to give him as a promotion, some familiarity, and we'll see what happens there. But this is going to be a Corey Mace defense, which we've seen over the last 2 years is a very, very good defense. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do on that side of the ball as well. Special teams coordinator is going to be Kent McGurry again, his 9th year with the team. Both him and Marc Mueller signed 2-year deals. So there's going to be some continuity going forward with the coaching staff for at least a couple of years, which is a good thing. So that's what we know. I'm sure there'll be more announcements later on, and just kind of the support staff and positional coaches as well. So,
the best part about Kent McGurry, when I read the announcement today, I was just going through it and I sat there. I'm like, why does that name sound familiar? And for the life of me, I couldn't remember that he was our special teams coordinator for the last however many years, which is a fantastic thing because it means he's not making mistakes. And our special teams has been pretty solid. But I don't know why I could not, like, you always look at who fans want to be fired. and you never once heard his name. So that's a good choice from Corey Mace right off the bat.
I would also argue that 95% of the people thought Dickey was still doing their special teams coaching. But actually, one thing. You go ahead. Sorry.
I had someone at work come up to me today, and this was before the Mueller stuff was all official. And he just started laughing. He's like, "Did you see who's special teams coordinator?" And I was like, "No." I'm like, "No, not a chance. They didn't do it." And he goes, "Maybe you should take a look." So I went and grabbed my phone and looked. I'm like, "You jerk. Like, don't do that to me. Do not do that to me."
My favorite thing, though, right now, and it's not talked about, we're the new Canadian Mafia. You got president, general manager, head coach, offensive coordinator. Can you tell me the last time this has happened, if ever?
Well, the last time the Riders had a Canadian head coach was Cal Murphy, or was it Cal Murphy? Or 1999 was the last time the Riders had a Canadian head coach.
Yeah, but I'm talking top
Ooh.
level brass Canadian. Not the Riders. That short-lived time when Marcel Belfait was the offensive coordinator of the Bombers was the last time those four positions were held by Canadians. And technically, if you count DC, Mace being DC, it's never been done except for us.
Interesting. Hey, Canadians.
I'm sure, and if I'm wrong, Rob Vance, don't tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. I actually did research. That tells you how much Corey Mace means to me. I did research.
Good
I'm
for
really
you.
proud of you, Greg. 8 years, and you finally start doing research.
And then ease a little bit low hanging fruit. Mueller being the OC of the Riders in year 2023. A little kismet on that.
Yep, I saw that as well. Now the Riders weren't the only things or team to make changes, and normally we would save this for later, but we'll get it out of the way right now. Hamilton Tiger Cats. Orlando Steinauer is now just going to be the president of football operations. Ed Hervey hired as the general manager.
And he's already offered people contracts.
And the succession plan was put in place. Head coach is going to be Scott Milanovic. So once the Steinauer and Hervey stuff came out, we're like, oh yeah, it's going to be Scott Milanovic. So no surprise there with who the coach is there. Hopefully they need to turn around there in Hamilton. So maybe that's the shakeup they needed.
But you have to think that was not the plan going into this offseason, because there's no way they would have let him interview for the Riders if they knew they were going to make him their new head coach. So I'm wondering what was the impetus for that. It makes the most sense. Take some of that off Steinauer's plate, but you didn't want him being the president and the head coach and have the general manager in between. That doesn't work well. We know from experience.
We saw that once. Yep.
Yeah. I've seen that movie. It sucked.
I think the decision came down to when he got the interview here, and there was a lot of talk that it was his job to lose. Now we know going forward that wasn't the case, that Mace was the guy. But I wonder if there was a fire lit under Hamilton's butt going, oh, he might actually get this. Do we want to keep him? If so, let's let him know that head coaching job is coming up right away. We just need to wait it out a little bit.
Well, maybe it was the Wally Buono did with players. Better to cut him a year earlier than a year late. Next off season, who's going to be looking for a head coach? Possibly Ottawa, maybe Edmonton. You never know with Chris Jones where he's going to be tomorrow. So, I mean, they still might be looking for a head coach next year. So maybe it was one of those.
They'll be looking for a head coach next month.
Yeah.
I'm certain there's a high school in Tennessee he could go coach and be his dream job again.
But maybe that was the situation as well too. Let's get him in this spot now. He still has Orlando that he can, bounce ideas off and the direction that the team wants to go with, and just do it a year earlier than planned so that they don't possibly lose Milanovic as a head coach to, say, Ottawa next year. So it made sense to do it now as opposed to waiting. Once the Riders have their, plan in place, then I think that kind of just finalized this for Hamilton. So Back to the Riders. We said go out there and start signing your free agents. Lots of signings, nothing major, but knocking a couple names off the list. Offensive lineman Jordan Tucker signed for next year. He finished last year on the practice roster. The one signing out of all the guys that I'm super, super intrigued about is an offensive lineman you've probably never heard of. His name is Trevor Reed. Last season, Jeremy O'Day brought in one left tackle to compete for the left tackle spot, and that was Gerald Hawkins. Every single other American O-lineman that was brought in was either a natural guard or a right tackle. I was mad about that last year.
Yes,
Why do you not have more tackles? Why are you trying to convert guards into tackle? Just don't. Like, you need to solidify this spot. And he brought in a guy, Gerald Hawkins, who did not play a meaningful snap in almost 4 full years. And what happened? Well, first off, he didn't even show up. And then when he finally decided, okay, yeah, I'll come, he got hurt immediately. I'm like, there's a shocker. A guy who hasn't played in 4 years got hurt right away. So this is a true left tackle, Trevor Reed, that was signed. And I'm hoping there's more than him. But that's the intriguing one, because the Riders need help on that O-line, and the tackle positions need to be sorted out this upcoming season. They have to be.
And I know it's been said many times, the fact that Jo can't find tackles just is weird. You think like maybe he can't recognize another, like he's like a dog looking in a mirror. He can't recognize anything else. Like, hey, look, there's an offensive lineman. That's the only one he knows is the one he's looking in the mirror. I don't get it.
I'm not going to get excited about a tackle until I see them at training camp. I've been through this dog and pony show enough. Show me a competitive O-line and I might get excited. Maybe.
I can't wait to see your 3 pages of full scap on their footwork on your scouting report.
You got it.
We'll send you to Saskatoon for training camp, and you can bring the report, Steve.
Yeah, I'll get you a tent. You can set up outside SMF Field and
get the binoculars.
Yeah, that's right. On the D line, they re-signed Caleb Sanders. He finished last year on the practice squad as well. A boatload of receivers, quite a few familiar names to Rider fans. Collegia Lipscomb, he was with the team last year in training camp and a little bit throughout the season before he was released. Jake Parker was in Riders training camp last year. They're bringing him back. Kendall Watson, of course, played, I think it was 4 games. I didn't think he was that bad, but he got outplayed by Stearns. He did have that 2-point convert against Edmonton, which gave us the Rouge at the end of that home game. So that was his contribution last year, was that 2-point convert, but they're bringing him back. And then newcomer Dante Myers was with the rookie camp, or at rookie camp with the Atlanta Falcons this past August. He might be more of a returner style guy. He's only 5'11", so he's not a big guy by any means. But the
short receivers never work in Saskatchewan.
No.
Hey, we have our one with Jareth Stearns already. We get one. But with Mario Alford being a pending free agent, might be looking at potential returners here, and he could be one of them. So see what happens. And then one linebacker, Jackson Serralo Brown. He's a Canadian. Was a 8th round pick in 2022 by Hamilton. Went back to school the year or following that, and I guess shook free. So more depth on the linebacking core for Canadians for the Riders. Now on to the free agent list that we've been doing for the last little bit. Focusing on the defense, we're going to finish off the rest of the team because there's only 2 special teams names, and we'll do the linebackers and the defensive backs. Some big-time names on both of these right now that are pending free agents for the Riders. I want to know. I'll name the names. yes or no? Do you bring him back? If you guys were Jeremy O'Day and Corey Mace having these discussions, we'll start with the linebackers. Alphabetical order. I'm pretty sure we're all in agreement here on Larry Dean.
Yes.
Got him. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. You got to bring him back. 100%.
It's going to be a young defense, I think. He's the veteran out of the group, and he's had all-star seasons since tearing his ACL. So you absolutely have to bring him back. Canadian Justin Herdman Reed.
My second favorite Herdman Reed. Passport and special teams, bring him back. But to me, he's not a must sign.
He's if you've got a roster spot open, sure, but you don't put a lot of effort into signing him. If he takes a minimum deal, go for it.
That's where I was going. If he wants to sign for minimum, sure, why not? Otherwise, draft a Canadian linebacker and pay him minimum. Derek Moncrief.
This one is hard. I love the guy, but I'm sorry.
It's not difficult at all. I'm ready to see the end of Moncrief's time here. I know he's got his roots here in Saskatchewan, got his family here now, but on the field, I just don't see it. They need to get younger there and better, and he just didn't have it at the end of last year.
And we're going to be talking about community. This is a community guy,
That's what
makes it even harder as well for me. When he was in the secondary last year, at the end of last year, he could not keep up. He was out of place. It did not go well for him. He played better around the line of scrimmage, but he got beat out by CJ Rivas. That Sam linebacker position, the cover linebacker position, is Rivas's spot. So he's also a pending free agent, which is on my must-sign list, and we'll have him. He's listed as a defensive back, so we'll put him in the defensive back group coming up next. But Moncrief is, I don't want to say the game is past him completely, because I don't believe that's completely true, but maybe this is one of those Wally Buono things. Cut him a year early as opposed to a year too late. And I thought there was enough signs there last year that Father Time's catching up to him. And this is the end of Derek Moncrief's playing career.
I think he's got some meaningful football in him, but I think the way this roster is going, that is Reeves' spot. You're right. So unless it's a team-friendly deal because he doesn't want to go, huge hometown discount, and he's a rotational guy, some leadership in the locker room maybe, or maybe he just outright retires. I don't know. But he's by no means a must sign.
And that brings me to the next name on the list, because maybe at a discount, you go 3 American linebackers in the starting linebacking group, and you can have Moncrief as maybe that run stopper and have him close to the line of scrimmage, replacing this guy who's a pending free agent, Micah Tights. And I like Micah Tights. I thought he had a very, very solid 2022. And going into 2023, I was looking forward to seeing that growth again, and it just was not there. He peaked in 2022, and he was awful at tackling. He took bad angles. Granted, he was put into really bad places situations by Jason Shivers. Tights was covering Austin Mack. Why is he covering one of the best receivers in the league? That's not Tights' specialty. He is not that cover guy. He needs to play, the run stopping guy role on the team. He needs to be closer to the line of scrimmage. And they put him dropping back and covering receivers. And I would hope that's not the plan for him going forward. But if it was, passport or not, see ya.
The only thing that saves him is his passport. But then again, with these new rules with the fake Canadians, you could get away with having Moncrief on the roster over Tights. Moncrief has the years in, especially with the Riders. Once again, I don't know what you do with Micah Tights because he was put into a lot of bad situations last year. So I don't know if that's a coaching or if he's lost a step. I don't know.
If
But
you would have asked me at the end of last season, he's a must sign, 100%. Now I'm leaning towards you still sign him because I'd love to see what he can do in a Corey Mace defense. I think with Corey Mace coaching him up, I think he can continue that rise up that he had. Especially if you get Josh Bell over as well. Those are two guys who have been around the block and would know Micah Tights as well.
And one more linebacker on the list, global player Lucas Ruos. Fit the global quota, I guess. Sure, sign him because probably won't cost very much, to be honest.
Being from Switzerland, I'm really neutral on him.
But hey, at least their flag's a big plus.
Let's let that sink in there for a second. And move on to the defensive backs. Now there's some big names in here. Again, alphabetical order. Jeremy Clark, who again had a solid 2022, but looked completely lost out there in 2023. Didn't matter if he was in slot, if he was out wide. He was bad last year. I don't know what to do here because you're coming in with a defensive minded coach, and maybe that's the answer for him. I don't know. But based on last year, I would have to say no.
There are a lot of quality free agents in Toronto, especially in their defensive backfield, that I'm hoping Mr. Mace can bring over this way. And if he's confident at all that he can do that, I think it's time for Jeremy Clark to head the other way.
And we also just recently cut Nick Marshall too, who was also a pending free agent. So your top two cover guys, so to speak, right now would be him and Clark, and we could say goodbye to both of them. And yes, Roland Milligan's coming back, which is going to be great for that defensive backfield. But I would argue, I would take our next name on the list, Amari Henderson, over Jeremy Clark.
Yep, I don't think I don't have Henderson as a must sign, but he's pretty darn close. I think he's going to be a good one. And you do need some continuity back there in the secondary. So I'd absolutely bring back Amari Henderson.
Yeah, 100%. I think he is as close to a must sign as you can get. I think, especially with the loss of Nick Marshall, probably Jeremy Clark, a whole new coach, some movement in the linebacking core. Amari Henderson was solid. I don't think there's any reason why you don't bring him back unless he's asking for too much money.
A couple Canadians coming up. Nelson Lacombo.
I'm torn on him. I had such high hopes for him.
We all did.
And yeah, he got hurt his rookie season when everyone else got hurt on a non-team affiliated training session. But he hasn't played up to what they drafted, I don't think, anyway. Especially for a guy who was supposed to go to NFL camp.
For me, it's passport or not, he can go. At some point, the potential is gone, and you have to look at what he's done, and it's not a whole lot.
You have Jaden Dahlke, you have Jackson Ford. Those are your two guys that are probably going to rotate in that safety spot. The next guy on the list, Godfrey Onyeka, to play special teams. Kosi Onyeka as well for special teams.
I would sign him for special teams only. Like Onyeka on special teams was
yeah. So at that point, if you're going to have if you're relegating Nelson Lacombo to just special teams, I'd rather keep the Onyekas instead and maybe draft another guy late that can play specials. And yeah, it's time to cut Lacombo loose. We talked about CJ Rivas, must sign list. He's got to be your sign or your Sam linebacker. I think we're all in agreement there. Mm-hmm. And two more guys that finished the season on the practice roster, Trumaine Washington got in for a couple games.
I liked everything I saw with him. I think you bring him back.
Sure, why not?
the games he played, he was at some points he looked like he was the only one trying in that backfield at some points.
It probably was.
And so yeah, like I think you bring him back. And yeah.
I'm in the here nor there category with him. He didn't do anything wrong. I wouldn't mind giving him at least training camp to get his spot on the roster. But again, for me, it all comes down to who Mace thinks he can bring over from, especially the Argos. They're basically their whole defensive backfield seems like they're free agents. And I wouldn't mind most of them over here.
Couple of linebackers as well too.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next week about who from the Argos that's a pending free agent that we think we can probably pry away.
Cool.
Actually, there's one on their free agent list that I really want, which might surprise a bunch of people.
Is it Bladek? Dariush Bladek?
Damn it, you got it right away.
Another way to right or wrong, like they did with Philip Blake last year. Plus, I love that guy. Oh man, he has some good stories about
awesome.
CFL that
Awesome.
we can't share right now anyway, at least not until he's not in the league anymore. About his interview process. But I'm all for bringing Dariush Bladek back. Last guy on the DB list, Abu Dermi Soiree, finished on the practice roster. Played a couple games for Winnipeg earlier in the year. I mean, if it's a minimum contract, sure, why not?
I just love saying soiree.
Yeah, bring him back for the cool name list.
Yeah,
just that alone is worth the minimum.
All name team. All name team.
Yeah.
Does Jackie Kellogg go on the all name team? Remember him, defensive back for the Calgary Stampeders?
Absolutely.
I love that guy just because of the name Kellogg. Maybe it's because I was a kid then. Like I was young, so I was like, oh yeah, that guy's like Frosted Flakes. I don't know.
Dave's Sponges. Like that's an all-time name for me.
Rock and Roll Preston have to be in there.
Yeah, it would not be.
I feel like we could do an entire show just on great names of the CFL.
Macho Harris.
I see him all the time. He looks great.
Yes, he looks like he still play.
Yeah. Free agent defensive back. I don't know if he's retired, filed his retirement papers or not, but hey, what the hell? Bring him on back.
He's out there. Come on, guys. I'm ready to go.
And two more players just on special teams that are left, both kickers, Brett Lothar. Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the few kickers in the league you can absolutely trust from 50 plus. So I think you have to bring him back.
There's no question. Add in the community aspect for the guy. The guy just lives and breathes goodness and a great kicker to boot. Yeah, you bring him back.
The only way you don't bring him in is if he finally gets an NFL look. And then if he does, I like that Mescal didn't miss a beat. Coming in basically cold, he was kicking great. So
yeah,
either one of these guys I'm happy, but obviously I would rather keep Lothar.
Ryan Mescal, obviously the other one. He's not a must sign by any means. I think you keep his number very, very close. And then if he's up for it, call him in for training camp if you have a spot. Sure, why not? Well, there's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Feshton of Royal LePage Regina Realty. Went a little bit longer than I thought. Moving to our Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. And it's basically just going to be one thing here, guys. Branding and connection with the fans for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine who brought up some really good points about the team and where they're headed. Looking at what's happening with the Edmonton Elks, possibly moving to a private sale, possibly losing the whole community-owned aspect. They went through the name change and years of suck on the field, and ultimately winning cures everything. It hides a lot of the issues. We saw that here in Saskatchewan, obviously. Edmonton had that for a long time, but when you start losing, it gets uglier and uglier, and the scabs get picked and you start seeing everything, right? The person I was having this conversation with said that there's a serious lack of connection with the fans. And I have a couple notes that I took down here. He questions if the team is taking it seriously. The fact that there are many season ticket holders leaving. And where is the team? They're too corporate. They're way too corporate. I think we can all agree that the team has shifted from community to corporate. You can find a balance. Obviously, you have to be corporate and get the big money that way from sponsors. But how do you get the community back in there? Now, maybe the team was way too community. Maybe back in the 80s and 90s when players were out in bingo halls, every single event you would find a couple riders or something. But maybe that's exactly what they need right now. So my question to you guys, why aren't the riders everywhere? Why aren't they in bingo halls, at minor football games? Why aren't they at Pats, Blades, Raiders, Warriors, Broncos games? Why aren't they at, Thunder and Hilltops games? Where is the team in the province right now? Because you don't see them.
I can answer that right off the bat. The team charges for player appearances now. So why are they going to send a guy anywhere for free if they can make the Pats pay $250 or whomever pay these appearance fees? I think it all comes down to money. And that lends itself more to that, have they gone corporate? And they absolutely have. Everything comes down to the dollar amount that it will make the team, where as opposed to the way it will affect the brand, which is what it used to be, what it was in the Jim Hobson era and the decades before. It was all about building the brand and getting the brand out there and building this connection to the team. That's an afterthought in the Reynolds era, and I think we can all see that. There's no need to do that. They're making money. How can they make more?
I guess the best metaphor is, and it's true, where the transition happened is when they moved from Taylor Field to Mosaic. You go from, and I love the old girl, this rundown, leaks on your head, giant toilet lines. You're lucky if you even get to see a quarter because you're waiting for food or use the bathroom or a beer. To this
Just the
beautiful
greatest place
stadium.
in the world, wasn't it? Man,
I miss that place. I miss that place.
It had life.
But once again, like as we talk about, there was a feeling there. There was the person sitting next to you. You might not know them, but they were your best friend for a couple hours on that day. And then we moved to the new stadium, and it is shiny, it is slick, it is modern. But that's when things shifted. Like player appearances, Gainer's not out as much as he used to be. We got a new Gainer that was on cocaine apparently, and then we had to fix that immediately. There was a.
They should have kept Meth Gainer. I love that.
Those eyes were nuts. But like there was a switch, and yes, it probably is the difference between the philosophy between Hobson and Reynolds, which is fine. That happens with new leadership. But they need to be able to find that connection with the fans again. There's a happy medium in there, because as much as they were community, they were still making a ton of money in those years leading up to that switch. So obviously it worked. But I think at some point they were like, well, there's too much demand on our players. There's too much of this. Honestly, I think the major switch happened when Chris Jones came to town. I think that's when a lot of the attitude towards keeping the players separated from the fans happened on that end of it.
Well, Steve, you mentioned obviously it costs for players' appearances now. Okay, well, that's fine. Somebody on Facebook actually mentioned this, and the person I had this conversation with said back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, There were 136 rider reps around the province. Every single small town had a rider rep. They were all volunteers. They didn't get paid. They got like probably swag and some tickets or something like that. What about something like that? Have designated people in certain areas going to events. Have somebody designated in Moose Jaw to go to Warriors games and go to concerts and whatever, and hand out a card and take some, ticket vouchers or something with you, and go to events with children. Go to obviously junior hockey, right? But junior football games. Go to I don't know, go to minor hockey rinks or something like that, and just, hey, I'm with the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. We'd love to have you out for some games. Here's my card. Here's what we can do for you. And you don't have to, I'm sure there are quite a few people around this province that would volunteer for that kind of a job. And obviously it wouldn't be a huge thing, but just go to one event a week and change what event that is. Don't go to just Warriors games or hockey games or whatever, right? Like go to whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. Just get out there in the community. Be known as that rider rep. So maybe that could be brought back.
From experience, you get a kid free anything to an event and make their parents' ticket minimal, you will get them out there.
Corey Mace, his story about Brooks Findlay, player for the Riders, gave him tickets to a game in BC. That hooked Corey Mace on football. And he said that in his press conference. He says, I am not here today if it isn't for Brooks Findlay. So as cool it is, and the Riders are going out to schools and they're doing appearances, and that's great. And they need to keep doing that. Are they taking tickets with them or vouchers? Sure, you look great for the day. The kid goes home. Yeah, Micah Johnson came to a school and it was awesome. Rider fan for the day. How do you make him a Rider fan tomorrow?
I still have my Bruce Boyko autograph card when he came to visit McLeod's school when I was a kid back in Mooseman. I still have that card. Kids remember that. My daughter had her phone case signed by Mitch Picton, and she wanted to go to a game because she knew a player.
Yeah. How many people around this province, Rider fans across the country, have that same kind of story? This guy came to my school. This guy signed my hat. I got those, I caught a little yellow squishy football and got that signed. I want to go to another game because that was cool. How many people have that story? Every single fan has a story like that. And I don't think the new generation of fans are going to have that story, at least the way that this team is trending right now. And that's where the team needs to look. How can we get that fan coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back? So, there's no one final answer, but I really think getting out to events everywhere, doing signings. They had a signing on this past weekend. I had no idea it was going on. Like, it was with a partnership of theirs with one of the supplements or whatever. Didn't know about it until it was posted like an hour before the event. Cool. Thanks for the heads up, guys. Like, this is booked weeks, months in advance. Have that schedule out somewhere. You're going to meet Micah Johnson and Charbel De Beer at Light the Lights at City Hall. Cool. If I would have known they were been there, I might have gone. Or, take your kids there, right? Like, but nobody knows.
And there are fans that will do that. If
Yes.
they see the Riders somewhere, they will show up. But yeah, you need to let it know, and just throwing it up on your X account or Facebook or Instagram an hour before the event is, it's like, well, I'm busy now. Maybe next time.
The one thing, and my wife actually brought this up, and if you guys know anything about Crystal, she couldn't possibly care less about football. She likes it because I like it. Nothing beyond that. And she got caught up in this culture discussion, and she messaged me. She goes, I have to tell you this. I have something to say about this. And she went off about the whole, the Fantus Flakes and the Darios and that whole era where you could go to the store and buy a product with these players' faces on them. And that was a great deal for co-op, but it was also a great thing for the riders because it really made you feel like you knew the fan or knew the player. Sorry, like, oh, he was on my cereal. He was on my bag of chips. These are like little things like that stick with people, and they make you interested in the player and therefore interested in the team. And I don't know why they stopped that. And she specifically said that those types of things almost made her interested because it was just another reason they were out there and things like that. And it's like they've stopped doing that. And then you combine the fact that they have these signings, but it's always the same 3 or 4 guys. You know, it used to be when you go to these signings, you could actually sit and chat with the player, have an actual conversation and go through the line, but it was different people. Now it's almost a corporate event where you put your football down, you get a quick autograph, and they're on to the next one. There's no community with that. It's just a signing. And that's not going to build anything. That's not going to build a fandom. That's going to build a memorabilia collection for somebody who's already a fan.
Well,
Steven,
and then, sorry, to
Go
go
ahead.
back to the stories that Steve told about George Reed and his son, that moment solidifies a fan. Like you have this situation where this player takes time to talk to a child, talk to any fan, they will remember. I remember meeting Cassie Campbell and having a decent conversation about hockey with her. Like it was like 5-10 minutes long, but I remember that. And fans will carry stuff with that forever.
Steve, I'm really glad you brought up the co-op chips and cereals and all that kind of stuff. What made that so great was that wasn't just a Regina or Saskatoon thing. Every small town in Saskatchewan has a co-op. And to know that you can live in Elbow, Saskatchewan and go get all Dressler chips, that's cool. You can't make it to a game. That's how they're going to support the team. That's how they're going to get money to the team. It may not be 100% of it, but like it's
Hell,
that's
I have
still-
3 co-op numbers.
that, that's their way of supporting, right? And we need more of that. So, and somebody actually on Facebook made this point, 1-year contracts. That's why you can't market players. 1-year contracts. Now that's a league-wide issue. That's not a specific rider issue. That is a league-wide issue. But at the same time, you kind of know who's going to be here. Quarterback 1 should be marketed no matter what. Doesn't matter who quarterback 1 is. If you're going into the season saying it's going to be Jake Dolegala and Trevor Harris gets cut, whatever. Sure, it doesn't matter. Make Jake Dolegala a star. Make these guys everywhere household names. And you can find 5-6 guys. Brett Lothar should have something. He's been here quite a while. Derek Moncrief, even if he's not in the plans going forward, you can still find some sort of, Navin Roosevelt, some sort of ambassadorship role for them and put them on something. It doesn't have to be necessarily current players. You can still have Wes Cates in the community. Have him do something, right? Like have him on chips or whatever. But that's one thing that I think needs to come back. And like, it's just, it feels like they're just not taking that seriously anymore. That's not the route they want to go, which I understand. Sure. Fine. That's not what your marketing firm that you hired from Ontario wants to do anymore. That marketing firm does not know the Saskatchewan market. The Saskatchewan market is so vastly different than any other market that, yeah, you can bring in very successful organizations to help you out. That doesn't mean anything here. That means nothing.
I really wish I was in those focus groups last year because all the stories I got out of them sounded really funny. Like the stuff they were bringing out, like, and obviously the uniform and logo they showed people that I got a preview of. I don't know what that Ontario marketing company has done. because you're right. I don't think they understand this market.
What works in Ontario is not going to work out here. Simple as that.
Now, another thing I'm hearing a lot about from especially out of town fans, it's too expensive to come in for games. One, the tickets are expensive enough as it is, which is a very fair comment. But with games, being at 5 or 7 or 8 o'clock, okay, now you got to spend a night here in Regina. Okay, so there's the gas, which is expensive. There's the food, which is expensive. There's the tickets, and then there's a hotel, which is always expensive. So how do you get those fans from outside of Regina to come in for games? Not necessarily as season ticket holders, but 1, 2, 3 games a year. I'm not seeing very many buses pull up to Mosaic Stadium on game day from out of town.
There's always the Saskatoon buses. There's a few.
There's a few, but
it's not like it used to be. You remember
No.
beside Taylor Field, there used to be a bus parking area that was filled with out of town folks.
And if you want to come into the game and you don't want to drive to the game and drive back immediately, because that's a long day. If you're, say it's a 3-hour drive, whatever the case is. But if somebody else is doing the drive for you, all right, yeah, maybe I'd be more inclined to make that trip. And if you can have some sort of bus deal with a local restaurant, get your burger, beer, and a ticket for $50 or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like you get something like that, and they get you a ride to and from the game. How many people would buy that? Like you got to at least try that out. Maybe it's, $100, whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you have a bus full of 55 people going and you sell that out, while 55 people doesn't sound like a lot, when they're all spending money on your product, that adds up pretty quick. And what about hotel deals? There's got to be some sort of thing where you can be like, I'm coming to the Rider game. I'm coming to Regina specifically for the Rider game. I'm going to stay in the hotel, the one next to the stadium or downtown. Doesn't matter where it is. Have a shuttle or whatever. Have some sort of deal with the hotels.
I'm really shocked that
something they can do.
I'm really shocked, actually, especially for that's not built into the season ticket holders, especially out of town. Because Regina Hotel Association, I believe, is a sponsor of the Riders. Like, why isn't there a Rider season ticket holder discount?
Promo code.
Yeah, there's a promo code, and even if you limit it to a couple of games per season, like it's like 25% off, whatever. Because I understand there's an event in town, hotels go up. I get that, but hey, give Rider fans if you're sponsoring it, at least the room's full.
But outside of major events in Regina, the hotels have the room.
Plenty of rooms.
It's very rare you see huge sellouts in this city. They have the room. Why not discount it so that they can fill a room? Because an empty room at $0 is worth a lot less to them than a full room at 3/4 the price. I don't understand. That's been a gripe of mine forever. I don't know why they have never thought about or done that. It's absurd to me.
But Greg, you tweeted out how this was going to be like a little mini Festivus this week on the show. And the point of this conversation isn't to try and jump on the Riders and attack what they're not doing right. It's to try and bring to the forefront a little bit more about things that they can do and how can they get back to reaching the fans. And our
There's
Facebook,
no bad ideas in a brainstorm.
That's right. Well, depending on who you are. If Ferlin came to me with a couple ideas, I'd probably be like, that's a bad idea.
Cartwheels, nothing but cartwheels. We're doing cartwheels all the time.
But we're getting a ton of comments on Facebook, on Twitter about this, and please keep them coming. If you have things that you think the team should do, how can they get back to reaching you? Whether it's season ticket holders getting back to having a season ticket holder gift that you get, which we've talked about on the show over the years.
I hate those points so much.
But I mean, what would connect you better with the team. And that's ultimately what it's about. And I know the Saskatchewan Roughriders pay attention to the show. I know they watch us. And this is a plea to Craig Reynolds and the entire organization. Listen to your fans. There are plenty of great ideas out there. And it's obviously you can't cater to every single one. That's impossible. It's never going to happen. But if you're getting this a large portion of people saying this is the issue or this is an issue, okay, well, what steps can we take to maybe not completely remedy it, but how can we get there and just start taking those little steps?
And here's the thing they need to remember: it's always going to be the little things. It doesn't have to be a giant. Everyone gets a full size ring, unless you only have like 4 season tickets and whatever. But it doesn't need to be like anything like that. It's memories, it's experiences, it's something that they will carry with them forever. Knickknacks are great. Like, I know we make fun of shoelaces and lanyards all the time.
People love them though.
Yeah, and they do. Like,
when you can get stuff like why not?
Like, I got my ring right here. I also got the Argos ring right here. Like knickknacks are fine, but memories stay with people forever. Like, create memories, create experiences.
Well, I said everybody has a story, and that game day itself. A lot of people are talking about the presentation of the game, and obviously, yes, that has gotten way too corporate in my mind. I understand why. Obviously, that's how you make your money. But I remember I didn't get to go to a lot of games as a kid. Single mom working shift work. It was just too expensive to go to games. When we did, it was in the family fun zone. Remember the old Connexus family fun zone? The fat cat was around there in the end zone at Taylor Field. Was that section like 18, 19, something like that?
It's like 10 to 14, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Little mini footballs, little squishy ones. I know that was, what was it, a Direct West? Okay.
Direct West.
Yeah, who has a yellow page anymore? But find a sponsor, get those things out there again, and just start chucking them in crowds. And you know who's buying tickets. You know where a lot of the children are sitting, probably in the end zone beside Pilsner Place, because that's where the family, discount pack is, right? Head over there with some squishy footballs, and then maybe you let the kids on field after the games and they get a couple autographs. They're going to think that's the coolest thing. I did. I had my first season tickets in 2003 were in section 9. I was row 1. So I caught a lot of these little yellow footballs and whatever else they were throwing out. But then I went to practices every once in a while and I got them autographed. I wish I still had them, because some of the names that were on there, geez, I wish I still had their autographs. But that's how you build the fan base. It can't be that much to have to, order a couple hundred squishy footballs for each game. It can't cost that much, especially when it's all sponsored.
I was going to say, when the sponsor's paying for it anyway, it's not even out of their pocket.
I laugh. Dylan still talks about catching those yellow footballs. He got to experience that. My younger two, if they come to games, they don't get that same experience, but he enjoyed that. He thought that was the coolest thing. He cared about that more than he cared about the game. It was that joy. And when he finally caught one, he was handed a few, but when he finally caught one on his own, you couldn't wipe that smile off his face for a month. All he would talk about was this cheap $2 yellow football. But that matters. And they don't do any of that anymore. They've completely gotten away from any kind of family-oriented marketing.
If you're lucky, your section might get a bag of chips, a small bag of chips.
Yep.
So was it the Rush Game and Moose Show? Was it 2 weekends ago?
Yep.
Went there, took the kids. A lacrosse ball came into the stands. It hit Connor's hands, landed on the woman in front of him. She turned around, hand to him. That is now his new favorite prized possession. Is this white lacrosse ball? But he'll remember this for the rest of his life. He got that lacrosse ball that game. So it's little things like that. Like I said, create memories, create experiences. that is what helps build your brand more than knickknacks, more than. Well, Steve and I went out for supper with Adam and Daniela for Daniela's going away last week. And Adam was absolutely blown away by the Ryder store. But he's right. He goes, why do you guys need 40 hats and like 60 different kinds of toques? Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. It's great being fashion forward, but you don't need that. You need experiences. That is what's going to make your money, not having every shade of green you can find.
That's a good point. That's exactly where the team's missing the boat is experiences. And we're not seeing that anymore. And it sucks because that's how we all grew up to love football. We all have whatever experience it was that led us down that road. And they need more of that. They do have good things going on right now. I love that they did have that season ticket holder meet and greet with Corey Mace. Anytime you have a big time player or a coach or something doing a signing, why would you not want to do that? Trevor Harris signs a new contract. Put him in the Harvard Lounge. Let him answer questions for 20 minutes. Have him sign some autographs for an hour. Send him on his way. But how many people are going to want to go to that? And how many kids are going to go to that? And, that's your quarterback. And he talked to you. He asked you how school was or whatever, right? That's how you grow the fan base. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that with every player. That's obviously not logistically possible. But any of the guys that are here that can do it should be doing stuff like that.
And there's people that are going to show up no matter what. There are people that the writers say we're doing this. There's the same people there every time.
Yep.
And they're the diehards, which is great. But you're going to get those people experience it for the first time. And that's who you have to hook.
The diehards are going to be there forever. They're not going anywhere. Those new fans are the new money, the new fan base, that growth that we've seen a huge decline in over the last 5-6 years. Remember when the stadium opened and there was a waiting list for season tickets, and now not so much.
You have to wait all of 3 seconds for them to punch in on the computer where your seats are, and that's the waiting list now. It's just so. And I know there's no one right answer here. Again, this is more of a brainstorming session, as you will. And we want everybody else to relay that to us. What do you think?
I'm blown away by all the discussion going on already.
So
there's been so good. It is so good.
And go to Facebook. Go to our post there that's at the top right now, and comment on it. And same with, there's a thread on Twitter, X. If you want to rename or to be kept anonymous in this, if you want to send us a message, please do send us a DM. We have an email account, pifflespodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear that.
Not info at Piffles Podcast. I don't know why that's on our website. No one checks that account. Don't go there.
But we want to bring those out, and we're going to continue this conversation next week as well. And I've already bookmarked a lot of these comments that I want to bring up because they're such good comments, and they're so unique to everybody that when you group them, even though they are unique, when you group them together, you can find a common solution for a lot of this stuff. So, Saskatchewan Roughriders, Craig Reynolds, please listen to the fans and not the diehards that you're going to bring into the focus groups. Obviously, listen to them, but they're going to be there no matter what. Casual fans, which are just as important, if not more important, than your diehards.
I mean, give us diehards free stuff, but also listen to casual fans.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's when the difference is me spending a couple $100 on the team or saying, oh, nah, I don't really care. Probably cater to them a little bit. And that's where the team has gotten away from, and that's where they need to get back to. And I'll just kind of wrap this up by saying what I saw on social media just a couple days ago. And I want to give a shout out to Vernon Adams Jr., who is the guy can do no wrong. Okay. But bottom line, the story is it's a BC fan posted on Twitter that they were mad about getting a wrong item shipped to them from the store, and they didn't get back to him about a refund. He was then told he had to wait until their new store was open in their new location. He also tagged Vernon Adams saying, "Love you, Vernon, but I might have to support a different team if I don't get this figured out. Like, where's my money? You guys aren't giving me the right item. Like, they need to fix this, and they're not doing it." Vernon responded within a couple hours and said, "They have everything in boxes right now. They're moving to a new store, but that is not an excuse. We'll get it taken care of. I'm going to personally look into it. Let me see how I can help." And I'm not saying every single player should be going on social media and looking at every complaint about the team and going to their bosses and seeing what they can do. But that's just one example. Vernon Adams is a guy who cares and wants to do the right thing. When you see stuff like that, and the guy responded back after saying, "Thank you so much. Like, I love you. I want to keep supporting you." There's a memory for that guy who's going to be a Vernon Adams fan for life.
I love Vernon Adams. Like, the dude's a
And-
great ambassador for the league, and like he
And
didn't have
market
to respond to that. He didn't have. Well, that too. Don't even like me and Derek Dennis have had that conversation many a time on how the CFL does not market any of their stars, and that's not even a team issue. That's a league issue.
Yes.
But yeah, VA, hell of a dude. Like he cares so much. I wish he would have lasted here because I would gladly own a VA jersey by now.
Vernon Adams might have been the best temperament for Saskatchewan quarterback one that we will ever see in this country. He gets it. He understands the league. He understands the community. If the league had 40 guys like him on every roster, it would be we wouldn't even have to have this discussion. We would be well set into the future.
Now, with a guy like Corey Mace at the helmet here in Saskatchewan now as head coach, to me, he seems like he gets it. And if you can have that kind of influence from, one of the top men in charge of the organization and where the team goes, if he can have some sort of influence higher up than him to have that, again, his story about Brooks Finley, if he can have that influence and say, "Hey, we need to give these guys some vouchers or something to take to schools with them and get them to games because they will fall in love, and they will." I think.
And
Corey
remember
Mace-
what I said about hotels? An empty seat in a stadium is exactly like an empty hotel room. Isn't earning anybody anything. That ticket voucher might be worth $100 in concessions or $100 at the rider store.
Yep.
And a lifetime of memories. And it costs the team nothing.
$100 at the rider store. So that's a hat and a spatula.
Maybe a squishy football.
We
Depends on if you're a season ticket holder and get the discount.
Yeah.
At some point, we're gonna have to talk about the rider tax because it exists and it's real.
Oh, we've mentioned that a few times.
I know, but it's coming up again.
But yeah, the time is now to make changes. We've been seeing this go forward over the last few years, and it was fine because the team was doing well on the field. And like I said, when things aren't going well on the field, you start seeing it more and more, and people start leaving for different reasons, all valid, that you got to find a way to get them back. Got to find a way. And this team should be putting every possible resource they have into doing that. So, Saskatchewan Roughriders, please pay attention. I'm not saying we have the answers. Everybody else has the answers.
But if you want to pay us as consultants, we are available.
We're very easy to get a hold of, and we'll take pretty much anything.
We're cheap and easy.
Yeah, that's right. But we're going to continue this conversation next week's show because, like I said, I want to bring up a lot of these comments that we've gotten that we haven't even scratched the surface on. and there's some great comments that need to be brought out and the team needs to hear and see. So we'll do that next week. So keep those comments coming, keep sending us messages, because we want to bring those out, and help be a voice for the team. And we all want the same thing. We all want this team to succeed. How great was it when they were the flagship franchise and it was impossible to get a seat at Taylor Field? The team was good. The atmosphere was awesome. And everybody, you could tell when it was game day. You can look around right now, and I have no idea when game day is here in Regina anymore.
Nope. Not the same.
Yeah, it's got to go back to the way it was. And beyond that as well, too, and get to that level and step up. So I think they have really good people in place within the organization to be able to do that. I think they just need that real kick in the rear end sometimes to focus on that, and hopefully they can get that done. But that's going to do it for us this week here on the Piffles podcast. Maybe we'll have a real Festivus, a real one coming up.
A real airing of the grievances?
Yeah. I'll get the aluminum
You two are
pole.
in my sights.
Feats of
We're definitely doing one for before Christmas.
Chris Strebler's finally going to know what I think about him. I've held it in all these years.
Yeah, you've been so silent on the issue, Steve. But yeah, there'll be more re-signings coming up. Obviously, I still maintain they're going to sign DeMarcus Christmas and announce it on like the 22nd,
On Christmas.
23rd. That's what they should do. Again, market that, put it on a t-shirt. Christmas has come early or something like that. And yeah, make people fans of DeMarcus Christmas. Easy stuff. But we'll talk all about that when the time comes. Piffles podcast, of course, brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. Thanks as always go to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty, Churchill Brewing Company for their support making this show possible. Thank you for listening, downloading the show, commenting, watching on YouTube and SaskTel Max. We really, really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. This is Ghost Behind Your Mind by Tyler Gilbert.